Hello. So in this video, we are actually going to be looking at how to install Flutter on a computer, right? Particularly on Windows computer. So if we just go to Flutter, um, let's see, install Flutter. I'm trying to get a website. Yeah. So install Flutter, and if we go there, you can see like it has like various devices. So I'm on a Windows device right now. So I'll click on this, but if you're on Mac OS, Linux, or Chrome, or if you're developing in China, you follow through this link. So, but I'm going to follow through the Windows setup, right? So I'll just right click and open that in a new tab. So once I click that, right, you can see, you can actually develop Flutter application. You can develop applications for various platforms using Flutter. You have Android, you have desktop, web, right? So for desktop, you have Mac OS and other devices, Windows, Android, you have iOS and the rest, right? So because I'm on a Windows and I want to set up for Android, right? To develop for Android devices, and then I'll set up for desktop, right? So let me right click on Android, now right click for desktop, right? So I'll try and summarize the whole write up here, right? So first off, if you're familiar with GitHub and you use GitHub and the rest, please download and install this. Then you download and install Android Studio. If I right click, right, um, it's loading, right. So if I right click, um, you would see it like brings up um, the page where I could go from there to download the Android Studio. So if I click on this, right, it's um it's going to load that page. You can see that, right? So I can actually download Android Studio from here. So you click on download, then you download, and you actually install it, right? So when you download and install it, please ensure you are connected to the internet while installing it, right? So then when I click, so that is for that. Then please you download and install Visual Studio Code, right? Download and install Visual Studio Code, and then install the Flutter extension. You can use that link to like install that, right? So then you set up the Flutter SDK, so you can actually use VS Code to do it, or you can download and install it, right? So you can go through it. The setups are there. So, but if you click on download and install, when you download this, it downloads the zipped folder, so you can unzip it and put it in a location on your computer. And when you do that, you actually have to set up the environment path. So right now, this is where my Flutter, this is where my Flutter folder is, right? It's currently in this place, right? And then if I go to my environment variables, environment, right? So you set up, when you do that, you will copy the path to the bin, I believe. Uh, bin, yeah, you copy this path and you go to your environment variables, you click this, you edit path, and make sure that you add a new one and then you take it to the top there. So that's basically what that's all about. And that's that. If you decide to use this method here, right, but to do it, right. So when you do that, you update your paths like I showed you. You set up all of this, right? Then you set up an Android emulator if you want to use a virtual device. You set that all up is there. But if you want to actually develop on an actual device, like physical device, you can follow this instruction to set it up. Enable USB debugging and all that on your device, and you can run Flutter Doctor once you have done with all that to see if all of these are there, and you can fix the Flutter issues. Flutter Doctor is to check if there's any issue with your Flutter installation, and then you can start doing that, right? Developing Flutter applications. So it's similar to Windows. The only difference is that for Windows, you need to download and install Visual Studio 2022. Then when you do that, you install it, and then when you're installing it, you need to select the package you're going to install. So you select all the packages that have to do with developing Flutter applications for um it's for developing applications for Windows. You see some for Windows and then mobile, right? Using C++ and the rest. It's about 5 boxes or so. Just check as check all of them and then install them, so you can do that, right? So when you do that, you can download Visual Studio. You know, if you open it in a new tab, it takes you to the website, and then you can actually download that there, right? Download the community version if you want that, and then you download it, install it, and check all those things during the installation and to install it. Please also ensure you are connected to the internet. So that's the only difference from Android, right? Every other setup is still basically the same, right? You can see, except for the fact that you don't have to set up any virtual devices. So virtual device for Android is like a device, like a fake device that you can, while you're developing your app, it will install on that device on your computer. So it's not real, it's fake, but it shows you what your app will look like on the real device. Then if you develop on the real device, you connect the real device to your computer and you can be developing the app on that real device live and direct, right? So that's how that works. So thank you for your time and do enjoy the rest of your day. Oh no, before we do all of that, before we call this video a quit, let's quickly create a Flutter application, right? So we create a Flutter application and let's just run it, right? So if we create a Flutter application, I go to my command prompt. Let me go to CMD, right? I go to CMD, and when I go to CMD, let me just change my directory. I'm trying to go to my documents directory, my desktop directory, right? Desktop, and I have a folder called Flutter projects, I believe. So what's that part again? Oh no, not that. RV Academy, and I believe that's it. Yeah. So if I type Flutter, you know, you use the Flutter keyword to actually create a new Flutter project, like to tell that you're trying to do something on Flutter. And when you use the create keyword, it tells that you're trying to create a new Flutter project. And let's just say new app, right? And when we do that, it's going to create the new Flutter project, right? So it's going to run that quickly. So while it's trying to run that, I'm going to pause the video so that it's going to kill. When then you finish creating the project, we'll come back to the video. Alright, so so it has created the application, right? So what I did was I changed it from new app to this, right? Because you know, new app is not a valid that package name, right? So you can't use that kind of name. So when you do that, you can see that it has created the Flutter application. So if I want to actually create the application, if I run the application, I'll change the directory to the project directory, right? Because we're saying the Flutter projects folder. So what happened is this RV Academy is inside my desktop, is on my desktop, right? And then this folder is inside here. So that's why I'll be storing the Flutter project folder. So I'll change it to that folder. I'll say new app. When I do that, it changes there. Then when I say Flutter, but before I say Flutter run, I want to say Flutter Doctor. So when you say Flutter Doctor, it checks to show you a summary of like everything on your computer, right? To tell you your Flutter version and to see if there's any issue with your Flutter these things, installation and the rest. So I'm just going to pause this video so that when it's done, I'm just going to show you. Alright, so basically you can see I have everything checked, so you can use that to check if you have any issue with your Flutter installation and accepting license and a whole lot of things, and connected devices and the rest. So when I click Flutter run, right, it's going to bring up a bunch of devices. So Windows, right, if I run Windows, it's going to run a Windows application, like it's going to run it for a Windows application, like I'm trying to create a desktop application, because Flutter can be used to develop both mobile apps and desktop apps. And if I say Chrome or Edge, it's going to run it on the browser, right, like a web application. So you can actually use Flutter to do that too. So in this case, but before you can do it on Windows, you need to install that Visual Studio that we talked about, right? So please, I run that installation. So if I hit 1, it's going to run it for Windows, right? So I'm just going to pause it until it's done running for Windows, and I'll resume. Alright, so this is the Windows application running. So you can see that when I press that command, right, it ran the Windows application on Windows. So this is like a Windows application, you see it, right? If I tap this is the default application that gets created when you create a Flutter application as of the time of recording this video, right? So you can see it all running here, right? If I hit Shift R, right, so that's hot restart, right? So it's almost basic. It's basically like saying you're restarting the entire application, right? But if I just press R, right, it's more of just reload, right? It's just more like loading the screen, something like that on a very basic level to kind of like explain it, right? So this is it. So if I want to end this, right, I would just say on my Windows terminal Control C, and it ends that, and I just say yes. So if I type Flutter run, right, let me run it on Edge. So let's see what it looks like on Edge. And while it's trying to run, I press 3. I'll just pause the video. When it runs, I'll play it again. I'll resume. So now that it has run on Edge, you can see it. So the same application, right? Using the Material app, from Android. That's why it looks like an Android, But basically it's running on a web browser. So this is the same application running in a web browser. So that's one of the advantages of Flutter, right? You can develop for various platforms from one code base, right? So basically that's how you can do that, right? So that's what this video is all about, to show you how to create an app, how to install Flutter and all that. So when I press C, you can see Control C. That stops running that, and the application has closed. So thank you for your time. We hope you enjoyed the video. We hope you learned a lot. Thank you for your time, and do enjoy the rest of your day.